Happy holidays. Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday.
The biggest news for the USC Trojans offseason just broke. Let's get into it. Trojan family, what's up? Welcome to the USC LAFB show. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud, part of the LAFB network. Thank you as always for making this a part of your day. Huge news this morning. So the USC Trojans account, I was still awake. I'm a night owl. Dropped an hourglass at midnight last night. I'm guessing it was a scheduled post. Maybe someone was up that late just to tease everyone in the morning. And then sure enough, bright and early this morning, announced we knew yesterday when talking to Coach Lincoln Riley that obviously more re-signings and player acquisitions had occurred. They were just kind of spacing out how they were announcing them. And it was announced this morning that quarterback Jayden Maiava will be returning next season in 2026 for the USC Trojans. Huge news. Great news. This is great news. It will have obviously some effect on five-star freshman quarterback Husan Longstreet. I will get to that a little bit later in the video. But let's first break down why this is so good and so important for USC. You know, Jayden Maiava was obviously draft eligible, and so there was the opportunity that he could enter the draft. When you see names like Arch Manning returning, DJ Lagway returning, not DJ Lagway, excuse me, DJ Lagway transferring, Lenora Sellers returning for another season, and you still don't know for sure about Dante Moore. At this point, it seems like he should go because he'll be like the second quarterback taken easily. Fernando Mendoza will go. But Jayden Maiava could have been a first-round pick, and I don't mean this in any disrespect because I think he's a great quarterback, but just kind of out of necessity because of the lack of QBs in kind of the draft class and some of the bigger name guys like a Garrett Nussmeier who kind of fell down draft boards based on this season. But ultimately, I think makes the absolute right decision to return for another year with Lincoln Riley, with USC. And this is a great decision for the Trojans. Whatever anyone wants to think, Jayden Maiava was a really good quarterback this year. Obviously, still had some mistakes, still had the 8 interceptions. But overall, his development and improvement from, the 4 games last year to this year were pretty remarkable. When you saw his patience, his cadence, his comfortability within the pocket, within the offense, kudos and all, let's give all the credit to Mekhi Lemon for winning the Blitnikoff, but you don't win that without a good quarterback, a solid quarterback throwing you the rock. And Jayden Maiava, I thought, had a phenomenal season. And the fact now that he can have another offseason with Lincoln Riley, the fact now that this roster is going to be that much better, I think, going into next year, will not only help this team reach their goals, but obviously will help him and his draft stock. And I would not be shocked at all if he could end up being QB1 in next year's draft. Maybe there's some bias or homers in that, but I think we've seen this play out before with Lincoln Riley. And obviously they had conversations after the season about his future. And Lincoln Riley has said many times, and he said yesterday in the press conference, I never like to tell a guy what to do. We'll weigh the options. We'll say, hey, if you go this way, this is what can happen. These are the benefits and the negatives. If you decide this way, here's the benefits and negatives, what I think is a really good way to do it as a player coach. You want the player to make the decision and not necessarily be skewed by their coach kind of swaying them one way or another. But I think based on where he is at as a quarterback, it makes a ton of sense to be back within this system yet again and just developing his craft that much more because it can still get better. And we saw every week it get better and improve, and his leadership gets stronger throughout the year and his communication gets stronger throughout the year. So I think this is a great morning for USC Trojan fans, and this is great news for the 2026 season to have some clarity which we would have probably had anyway. Even if he did decide to go, it would have likely, been Husan Longstreet and kind of a transfer quarterback battling it out with Longstreet being in kind of the driver's seat. But now we pretty much know full well, like, okay, this is Jayden Maiava's team, barring anything unforeseen. Like, he'll be the starter going in the spring, going into fall, and really take this thing hopefully to the next level with this hopefully loaded roster going into 26. So, he finished this year, if we just go kind of some statistics here, ninth in the country in passing yards with 3,431, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He had the number 1 overall QBR, which is a great metric to measure, 91.3. And he was first in the Big Ten in passing yards, ahead of Julian Sayin, ahead of Dante Moore, ahead of Fernando Mendoza. So really just, really solid season. But I think now he will go into next year as a true Heisman favorite. I think I'll be curious to see the odds, but I really think he'll enter the season as kind of one of those top 10 Heisman favorites entering the year, and certainly can, become another Lincoln Riley quarterback to compete for that award and potentially compete for number 1 overall pick. We've seen this play out. Now, obviously, we saw guys transferring it play out, and I've mentioned this before, but we saw, Jayden Daniels transfer from Arizona State over to LSU and then have a phenomenal year there with a Heisman campaign, ends up being the 2nd overall quarterback taken. We saw Cam Ward transfer from Washington State to Miami and, a good quarterback, then has a fantastic season where he becomes the runner-up for the Heisman and the number 1 overall pick. So it would not shock me at all if Jayden Maiava, after 1 year starting, this was his first true year starting, obviously got the 4 games last year, but the 1 season starting and then now in year 2 as a starter can really hone all those skills and be the best quarterback in the nation, which is, fantastic. Former 3-star recruit, obviously transferred from UNLV. So you love to see it. Now, how does this pertain to Husan Longstreet? So I'll break it down in 3 ways here. I'll break it down as why I think he stays, why I think he goes, and then what I ultimately think he will do. Now, why I think he stays in this scenario, I truly believe, and a lot of this is going to be kind of just my opinion. I've, had some conversations, but, this just happened this morning, so we'll see what more happens. And Rivals and Steve Wiltfong did talk to his father. They put an article out, so I'll share that here in a moment, and you can kind of take that for what it is. But hey, what's going on, LAFB family? Before we get to the show, got to tell you about my friends over at Sleeper, the number 1 sports app right now, and not just for season-long fantasy. They have daily game updates. They have a live chat that you can chat with other users. Plus, my favorite part is the daily fantasy feature, which is similar to a pick'em. You just choose 2 or more players across any sport, choose more or less in whatever sport that may be. So if it's football, more or less touchdowns. For, Jayden Maiava, if it's Mekhi Lemon, more or less receptions. If you're looking at the Dodgers, more or less home runs for Shohei Ohtani. Really easy, and you can win real money. Right now, when you go and make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code. You see it right there on the screen, USC LAFB. That's going to give you a match deposit bonus up to $100. You put in $100 to play with, you're going to get $100 free on top of that. You can put in 10, you get 10 free. Also, right now, our friends are offering a $20 free entry for any new signups. If you go sign up today, you'll get both those offers. You get $20 right off the bat free to play with. Plus, use that promo code USCLAFB at sign up and you'll get that match bonus as well. Go to the App Store, Google Play, download the Sleeper app today, and tell them that the USC LAFB sent you. Now, let's get on to the show. So this is more kind of my opinion, but I believe, based on, seeing him at campus, hearing all the coaches talk about him, that he absolutely loves being a USC Trojan. So if he does leave, it will have nothing to do with that. I think he loves the coaching staff. He understands what is being built at USC. He understands at his position the value of playing for someone like Lincoln Riley. It's pretty clear when you're a quarterback for Lincoln Riley, you're going to be a pretty high NFL draft pick. Like, his lowest draft pick. You could say Spencer Rattler, but that was such a limited time that he actually played for Lincoln Riley because he ended up going to USC and brought Caleb Williams with him. But outside of Spencer Rattler, you would say Jalen Hurts, who was a second-round pick and is a Super Bowl champion. So all of his quarterbacks go on to the next level and have success. I think he also, the fact that even if he does not play this year as the starting quarterback, he will be handed the keys in 27 with 2 years of development under his belt. Plenty of, if he wanted it, plenty of eligibility still left. He'll be a redshirt sophomore. With arguably the best USC roster that we've seen in 15 plus years. Barring, again, this is projection, but barring anything happening. He will be handed the keys to the best USC roster that we have seen in quite some time. When you think of Tanuk Hines and his class being juniors, when you think of Boobie Feaster, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, Trent Mosley, Luke Weaver, all those guys being sophomores. When you think of Mark Bowman being a sophomore, or a redshirt, probably a sophomore, he's going to play a lot next year. When you think of the offensive line, what they're looking at, and then we'll see how the defense continues to develop. It will definitely, in terms of just skill level and talent and probably size, be the most talented, deep USC roster that we've seen in a long time. And that will be his team. So from just a football standpoint, I believe he knows that, and it would be unwise depending what his goals are, if his goals are NFL and winning a national championship, he can accomplish all that right here at USC. And if it means sitting one more year, obviously he wants to play, he's a competitor, but where else can you go where all of that is on the table? So that is why I think he will stay, is for all those reasons. Knowing what is here, knowing what you have in the coaching staff, you're still going to be getting six figures NIL to be the backup, probably close to $1 million if we're being honest. I think Rivals has his evaluation at like $750K. I'm guessing he'll get close to that because of why he might leave. Now I'll get into that. So why he might leave, I don't think he's in it for the money at all. Obviously, that's, it's a nice to have, and obviously you need to be competitive in these NIL offers in this era, but I don't think that is a driving factor. But let's not get it twisted. There will be a lot of schools out there throwing the bag at Husan Longstreet to enter the portal. Throwing the bag. You just look at some of the schools that are going to be quarterback needy. I think LSU is the immediate one that jumps off the page, right? Lane Kiffin is there now. We know he's a good quarterback coach also. We know that he's going to be looking to upgrade that position. They came hard after Mark Bowman. Like, we know Lane Kiffin is going to go hard after Husan Longstreet. I don't think that's any mystery. And we know that they have the money to back it up. So he will have potentially the opportunity to start immediately at LSU and will be getting a very lucrative NIL offer that, let's be real, will be more than what USC will give. USC will still keep it a very good offer for him to be the backup, but all of these other schools that are vying to make him the starter will be more. So if there is monetary decision-making, leaving will make him more money. It's just the way it is, the way this era is going to work. So LSU is someone to watch with that pedigree, with Lane Kiffin. I think Indiana is one to watch. When you look at, obviously, Fernando Mendoza leaving, what he was able to do in 1 year with Curt Cignetti, and they're in the playoff, and we'll see how their season ends. And that team, as I've said before, they're going to be more in a rebuild next year. Not saying they're not going to be good, but they are losing a lot, and they don't have like a top 10 recruiting class. So we'll see what they do in the portal. But again, he would be able to probably go in there with a pretty substantial NIL package and be the starter next year. Likely. I mean, Curt Cignetti is a coach that will still make you compete, but that will be much more on the table than here at USC. I don't want to go into all the schools that, Nebraska's losing their quarterback, Dylan Raiola, if that's potential. I think Texas A&M is obviously one to watch. We'll see what happens with Marcel Reed if he decides to end up going to the draft. I think he goes back. He's only a redshirt sophomore. I believe he'll return. So that would change things. But if he does decide to go, remember that was the school Longstreet was originally committed to before flipping to USC. So that would obviously be probably the biggest one. Them and LSU would be the two biggest ones to watch. And we know Texas A&M has plenty of money for NIL offers. So why I think he leaves would be the NIL money would be substantially more than he'll get at USC because it'll be starter level money and the opportunity to play from the start next season. And that can be enticing. And those aren't bad schools, right? Like it's one thing if you're leaving USC and, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or throw any shade, but when you look at kind of, of the past, I won't even say his name, but yeah, I mean, you'll know who I'm alluding to, but when you leave and you end up at like a Mountain West school or out some other small school, that makes things a little more transparent and clear. But Husan could leave and go to potentially a team that's in the playoffs right now with also a loaded roster. So that will be enticing. And I don't think you can discredit the kid for that. I don't think you could be upset about that by any means. We all would love to see him stay and ride this out, but I think it's going to be it's 50-50 right now, I would say. And so it goes into what I think he will do. And I think these comments were fairly telling. And so, like I said, Steve Wiltfong of Rivals spoke with with Husan Longstreet's father, Kevin, and he said, and I'll just kind of read some of the quotes here, and I'll put the link below if you want to check it out. It's always a possibility of moving, Longstreet's father, Kevin, said. He loves the coaching staff. Husan is passionate about the game and winning a national championship. That's what motivates him. That's what he wants to do, play a role to help move towards that. Husan is focused on the bowl game, but he's also aware of what the coaches are thinking for next year. He said, I want to be able to contribute to a winning national championship, and that's not holding the ball on the sideline. He's trying to find ways. He's trying to look into the positive of being there. Coach Riley, the recruiting class, but Husan knows you're not in college forever. It's a few years. He wants to make the most out of it. I know right now he's focused on the bowl game and making the most out of it. He went on to say he likes the staff. This is home for him. So definitely he wants to contribute. Husan wants to follow his passion. And finally, it's really hard to put him in a box. Money can't buy certain things. That kid's passion, what he chooses to do, could last forever. If he goes somewhere else and doesn't play, he took a shot at it. He might have failed, but he can always say, I went for it. So very honest. And I don't think there's anything bad or necessarily telling there. I just think it says kind of what I've been saying and what you all probably know is it's kind of 50-50. It's up in the air right now. They will get phone calls, plenty of them, and it will be up to him to decide, does he want to wait it out one more year here at USC, which he considers home, and that they can see what they're building, or does he want to ultimately go somewhere where he will have a better shot to start next year? Maybe not a guarantee, but a much better shot to start right off the bat. Because like I said, I don't think he'll get more money elsewhere. That's a fact. But I don't think that will really be the driving factor. I think it'll be playing time. So I think I lean towards him staying just because I think he loves being with USC, knowing, I won't go through it all, but just knowing what you have with Lincoln Riley for the next step. I just think, and what they're building with the class and what he'll be handed next year, or 2027, I should say, I think is very clear as a very high upside. So I think he will stay, but would definitely not be surprised if he does end up leaving. And if he does leave, we'll end with this. As much as we love Husan Longstreet and as much as I think he is a unbelievable quarterback, I mean, yeah, he was a 5-star, but he has a lot of upside, and his work ethic. I mean, he lives, like, we can't report on too much, but I think I can say this. Like, when we're at practice, there has not been a single practice I've been there where he is not still on the field when everyone else is leaving. Like, he is there always late after practice. We hear about his grind in the film room and the weight room. Like, he lives and breathes football. You can't teach that. You can't coach that. That has to be inherent, and he has that. So we would hate to see that leave. But if he does ultimately decide to go, no one should panic. There should be zero panic, because what will ultimately happen is Jonas Williams is a freshman, right, in this 26 class, just like Husan was this year. They'll go out and get a veteran quarterback to be kind of that backup role in case, Jonas Williams doesn't quite get there yet as a true freshman. So they'll go and get like a Sam Heward type QB. I love Jonas Williams' tape. So that's the other piece of this, right? Like if Husan decides to stay, what happens with Jonas Williams? Does he want to sit for 2 years? So it's kind of that conundrum of the future. So if Husan does decide to go, then Jonas Williams all of a sudden becomes, okay, I got 1 year to sit as a freshman, and I get those keys that I talked about in 27 as a redshirt freshman. I'll be handed those keys to the best USC roster we've seen in 15 years. And let me tell you guys, and I'm not taking anything away from Husan Longstreet, but Jonas Williams, I loved his tape. I mean, he broke basically every record in the state of Illinois in terms of passing yards, passing touchdowns, super mobile. They're very similar when you look at Williams and Longstreet. They have very similar attributes in terms of size, skill set, the mobility. So losing Husan Longstreet would be such a shame because of who he is and what I think he can be. But in terms of the position and the future, you've still got Jonas Williams coming up who will fit in seamlessly, and then he gets those keys to the Rolls Royce in 27. And then they'll bring in not even a bridge, but they'll bring in a vet presence to be a backup, just God forbid if something were to happen to Maiava this year and Jonas Williams maybe isn't ready. So there should be no panic. So that's all laid out. Ultimately, I think Longstreet ends up staying. I'm like 55%, 45%. So I'm not like saying that with a lot of conviction. But I think he will ultimately stay. But if he does decide to go and try to go elsewhere, first of all, just don't go to a Big Ten rival. Like don't go to a Big Ten. Don't go to an Oregon. Don't go to UCLA across town. Right? So go to some others. Go to Texas A&M where you originally committed, and we'll see you there. But hopefully he is back. Hopefully he stays, and we'll see. But this program is moving in the right direction, and Jayden Maiava returning is fantastic news for the future of this team. Two other things really quickly just to say that they came in last night. Kicker Ryan Sayuri has re-signed, which is, not unexpected, but great. I mean, one of the bright stars of this season, how well he played from the kicker standpoint, and just a true surprise. Caden Chittenden was brought in to be the kicker, transferred from UNLV, got injured, could never really get fully healthy, and then I don't know if he ever actually got 100% healthy, but it didn't really matter because Ryan Sayuri absolutely stole that job and was pretty lights out. Had a few mishaps late in the season, which were unfortunate. Some were on the offensive line. Some were just, had a few kicks that, missed wide right or right left. And then I think one or two that maybe he kicked a little low, but overall finished 17 of 21 on the year, was perfect on extra points, and was perfect on 40-plus attempts, 6 for 6 on 40-plus yard field goals, his long being 54 yards. So Ryan Sayuri, bright future. He's probably only going to get better. And that was just one of the true surprises. And for as upset and rightfully so as many have been, including myself, at the special teams and special teams coaching, they have been able to find some really good specialists over the year. Obviously had Ray Guy Award winner last year at the punter position. And now they have this young kind of come from nowhere kicker who's, one of the best kickers that USC has had in the Lincoln Riley era. So at least that's looking good. Speaking of special teams, also came through last night, Zacharias Williams, wide receiver, re-signs, will be back. I love this re-signing. We know Prince Strong ended up entering the portal. Those were kind of the two vet guys that I was looking at as returning and then adding maybe one more, and then you have all the youth. But with Strong gone, I was like, I think it's really important to have Zacharias Williams back for two reasons. One, they had a lot of high hopes for him in this offense before he got hurt. He was a true freshman at Utah and was one of the best Big 12 receivers as a true freshman at Utah. Had really big expectations for that Utah Utes team going into his sophomore year. Ultimately enters the portal, wanted to be closer to home. He's a SoCal kid, and ends up at USC. And, they had some lot of fun things planned for him. I think he was going to be utilized kind of in that kind of wing position, be able to, that screen guy with some of his speed, be able to utilize, especially in goal line situations. Obviously, Mekhi Lemon did that very, very well, so they didn't miss out on that. But I think he's a guy that can do that moving forward and give you some versatility from receiver. But also from special teams, he was kind of seen as the guy to maybe take over the punt return and kick return before getting injured. They were really leaning into him in fall camp to kind of take that from off of Mekhi Lemon's plate. And obviously with him getting injured, we're never able to. So if he's able to really seize that special teams role on top of being involved in the offense, I think he has a really bright future and has a big opportunity and a lot of eligibility left to keep developing within the system. So I think that was a really good retention as well for this receiver room. Someone that does have some experience, not a lot with USC, unfortunately, because of injury, but did have a lot of reps as a true freshman and now is in this system for year 2. So we'll leave it at that. I'll be back later today. We're doing 3 videos a day at least. So we'll see if more news pops. But Jayden Maiava returning for 2026. Great news for the Trojans as they continue to build out this roster in Act 2 of their offseason. Thank you, family. Hit that like and subscribe button. I appreciate you so much. And yeah, we'll talk to you later today. As always, fight on.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening. Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday.